Hello, my friends, and happy Thanksgiving. This is actually going to be our sixth keto proper human diet Thanksgiving. As you can see, I have my little helper here. He's going to be helping me out only because I literally just finished breastfeeding and diaper changing little baby boy. He's actually going to be turning 12 weeks as of tomorrow. So we're going to go ahead and show you all kind of step by step what we do for our keto proper human diet Thanksgiving that is all completely family friendly. So we're going to first start off with our appetizer. What we like to do is deviled eggs. It definitely lasts for the day of as well as the days following Thanksgiving. What I did was I went ahead and used my Ninja Foodie pot to pressure cook eggs to boil them. And what I did was I did 24 eggs. I do have these nice little cartons from Amazon. They hold either boiled eggs or they can hold the half of the boiled eggs for deviled eggs. And they do come with lids that allow for really good storage. I also like the containers because it contains the smell, so your whole refrigerator does not end up smelling like rotten eggs. So it definitely becomes helpful to have the containers. As you all know, I really like the simple way of kind of doing things to eliminate having a lot of dishes to wash. I am a busy mom. Currently right now I am on leave from work, but when I am working, I work full time. I homeschool our kids as well as we have new addition as well, so things get to be really busy. So what I end up do is I end up putting the yolks in a Ziploc freezer bag, and I have my 16-year-old helping out. So can they see the bag here? So I end up dumping out all the yolks in the Ziploc freezer bag, and I only end up using a bowl just for my ingredients here. So what we have here is 12 tablespoons, or if you will, 3/4 cup of chosen food mayo. This is an avocado oil based mayonnaise. You can also use carnivore mayonnaise. I will link my two favorite recipes, which would be from Anita Ketogenic Woman as well as Chris Cooking Nashville's carnivore mayonnaise. It is a butter based type of mayonnaise is their recipe, so I can go ahead and link that as well. I also add 4 tablespoons of Dijon mayo. You can use just plain yellow mustard if you would like. And I put in 4 teaspoons of white vinegar. You can also substitute the white vinegar for pickle juice, or you can also acidically use apple cider vinegar if you would like. So I don't add any salt to this. What I like to do is I like to salt the tops. So I'm going to go ahead and have my little helper here go ahead and mix that. All right, go ahead and gently mix that, baby. Mix. Go ahead and mix. All right, I'm going to have him go ahead and mix that. What we're going to do to make it simple on us, that way we just have the one bowl that we're going to end up washing with that spatula, is we're going to finish mixing this and then we're going to dump it in our Ziploc baggie. Once we dump it in our Ziploc baggie, I'm going to go ahead and have him kind of smush it around. We're going to clip the tip of it. That way we can go ahead and get our whites filled. That way we will have our complete deviled eggs here. So baby is a little fussy right now because he's definitely ready for a nap. He also has already shown signs that he is teething. So things have definitely been interesting as we're kind of getting into the teething stage. All right, good job. All right, so now we are going to show our friends that we're going to go ahead and dump it right here into our Ziploc baggie. So go ahead and carefully Just go ahead like this. Can you hold the bowl like this, baby? And then go ahead and spill it in here. With the spatula can help you scoop it in. There you go. All right, make sure we get all that good stuff. There you go. Good job. All right, keep going until all of it is inside the Ziploc baggie. So I know I have had some questions asking me for before and after pictures as far as when it comes to me before pregnancy, postpartum. I did not gain any weight. So my last video I had mentioned I did not gain any weight during my pregnancy. So literally as you saw me prior to pregnancy is how I also look postpartum. What I can attest to is just like the normal pregnancy things, breastfeeding. Obviously, my breasts are definitely filling up. And of course, going through a third C-section, I do have additional hanging of my C-section pouch. But other than those two things, I don't have any weight gain as far as from the pregnancy. So thankfully, keeping on the proper human diet throughout my pregnancy definitely helped. Even from going from carnivore to incorporating some veggies, it still had not caused me any issues at all. So I'm going to go ahead and seal the bag. That way we can kind of keep this mess free and go ahead and smush. Smush, smush, smush. Go crazy with it, because you're going to want to mix it all up. So as you can see, this is something you can definitely incorporate your kids, your grandkids, get them involved. Especially getting them involved is definitely going to make them want to eat it only that much more, because they were involved in the whole process. So it's kind of that concept of them wanting to eat what they were involved in creating. So I try to get them involved as much as possible, especially with them helping me out. They are both two huge blessings. Each of our boys, they're 7 years apart. The oldest, Malik, is 16. He just turned 16 end of October. Then we have the little guy helping us over here. He is 7. In January, he'll be turning 8 years old. And then we have the 12-week-old. So they're all each 7 years apart. It was not anything planned. I know a lot of people, when I'm out and about in the store, they see the age gap and they ask me if it was something that we had planned. No, it was truly, each one of them was a blessing, because I did suffer from infertility. All right, let's go ahead and smush a little bit more. So we don't want to feel any of the yolks, and we don't want it to be chunky at all. We want it to be smooth. Yeah. So if you feel around, you could feel those yellows. Just make sure they're smushed, okay? And when you complete this, you can definitely top your deviled eggs however you want when it comes to finishing touches. You can sprinkle a little bit of pork panko for a little bit of a little crisp factor. You can chop up some scallion, or some call it green onion. You can sprinkle a little paprika on it. You can top it however you want, especially if you're going to have company over. You can definitely make it more appealing and decorative to put tableside. Okay, let's go ahead and peel around. We still have a few little bit of lumps over here. All right, you're doing a good job. Keep smushing, 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 smushing. you feel any more lumps? Are all the lumps out now? Alright, so as you can see, when you involve the little ones, it can take a little bit longer than if you were to do it yourself. So usually getting this done is really, really quick. So don't let our time here sway you away from doing this yourself, because it is something very, very quick. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to simply just use this Ziploc freezer baggie. And as you all know, I'm really about saving on doing the dishes, as I mentioned. I like to mix like my ground beef, my ground lamb. I like to mix everything in these Ziploc freezer baggies. It makes it very, very easy when it comes to time management. So we're going to go ahead and puncture a little hole, and we're going to get each of these filled up here very, very quickly. So as you can see, even with baby wearing, I'm able to accomplish this with one hand. We're going to go ahead and get these filled up and finished up, and then we'll let you guys see what the finished product looks like in a little bit. All right, my friends, we have our deviled eggs completed. It's not so aesthetically pleasing because, you know, I did have my helper, but nonetheless, it's going to be delicious. So it really does not matter how they look. It's still going to taste really great. And we're not, you know, trying to get like a magazine profile or anything like that with these visuals that you're seeing here. So it is completely fine. We did go ahead for one tray. We went ahead and sprinkled some tahini as well as just a little bit of parsley over the top. And then just the other, we went ahead and just gave it a little light sprinkling of some pink Himalayan salt. And that is it for our appetizer for our deviled eggs. I'm going to go ahead and put the lids on and get these in the fridge before we don't have any for Thanksgiving, because as I said, you involve them and they definitely will consume them up. But we're definitely wanting to make sure we have some for the day of. So I'm going to go ahead and get these in the fridge, and I'm going to get into what we're going to whip up next. That's going to be part of our Thanksgiving meal. All right, my friends, I have the deviled eggs put away, have the kitchen cleaned up a little bit. Of course, our dining room is still a hot mess because I kind of been using it throughout, getting a lot of stuff prepped over here. And then I have baby boy over here sleeping in the stroller. So if he gets a little bit fussy, you're going to see me trying to rock him over here to kind of get all of this done. I definitely wanted to record everything for you all. I have to cook it anyway, so might as well go ahead and record. We're gonna go ahead and whip up some keto cranberry sauce. I have been making this ever since we first started keto. So this is going to be our 6th Thanksgiving, if I did not mention that before. But we started keto January 5th of 2019 as a family. And as I said, I've been making this ever since. I kind of had to customize it after making the very first batch. November 2019, we had to basically do a little bit of tweaking, and I'm going to go through kind of the rundown. So in this pan, as you can see, I have two 12-ounce washed already fresh cranberries. So it is total 24 ounces cranberry. And then what I do is usually for this quantity of cranberry for 24 ounces, the recipe, any keto recipe that you would find, calls for anywhere from a cup and a half to 2 cups of keto sweetener. So whether it is your erythritol, monk fruit, stevia, we do not have that much of a sweet tooth, especially being on keto for so long. The sweet really, especially when it comes to the keto sweeteners, the sweet really kicks us really hard. We're very sensitive now. So most definitely, I only add 2 tablespoons of sweetener. What I use is a monk fruit sweetener. Let me go ahead and grab it real quick. I actually put it away. And I wanted to show you all what I use. So I purchased this from Amazon. So as you can see here, it is a monk fruit extract. So it is very sweet. So I only add just a tablespoon of this stuff, and it gives us just enough sweetness to kind of make it like a jelly. So I don't know if you've tried any of the keto type of jams. They have like the Good jam that's sold in some stores. It kind of gives like a sweetness like that without being an overkill of sweetness. So I just go in with 1 tablespoon, as I said. And as I said, I purchased it from Amazon, so you can definitely find it there. I'm going to go ahead and crank up the heat here as I'm going through the other ingredients. So aside from the 24 ounces of cranberry, the 1 tablespoon of the sweetener, I do add 1.5 cups of water, and I just go ahead and let it boil. So it is really just those 3 ingredients at first, either 12 ounces or 24 ounces of cranberry. I like doing a big batch of 24 ounces because we have enough if we should have leftovers, and we usually have a lot of leftovers because I definitely make enough that way I can rest at least the day or the day even after uh, Black Friday, to be able to have at least some resting time and not have to worry about cooking for anybody. And then you're going to go in with, as I said, your preference of your sweetness of your keto sweetener, and then you're going to go in with 1.5 cups of water, and we're going to go ahead and let this boil. So we're going to first bring it to a boil. I'm going to go ahead and mix up everything here because I have that sweetener in here. So it is a very simple recipe. What I've also seen some do over the years is they will make their keto cranberry sauce, and they will get a mold or even use an empty can. So I know a lot of people are using a lot of pumpkin puree, like 100% pumpkin puree. You all are going to see me use some as well. So what I'll see some do is they'll actually make the sauce. They will blend it in their food processor, and they will go ahead and put it in that can, and they would allow basically for it to refrigerate a couple days. So I've seen, they said that it's best if you're able to let it refrigerate for at least 2 to 3 days. That way it's going to actually harden as a texture in the can and be like your popular brand of a canned cranberry sauce, where you can actually slice it down like that popular canned cranberry. Okay, so we're almost at a boil here. So once I get this to a boil, what we're gonna do is, once it boils, I'm gonna go ahead and put a lid over the top of it. We're gonna let it simmer for 10 to 15 minutes. If your cranberries are varied in size, like I have some that are varied, so here I have some very like larger pieces here, as well as some like real tiny pieces. It can take anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes is what I've noticed over the years. Yours might take less time, also dependent on how fresh your cranberries are. It can also depend on how much time that it takes. Generally, what you're going to want to see is that for the most part, all of your cranberries have actually popped, is what you're going to want to see. That's how you know when it's ready and when it's done. So I'm going to go ahead and let this come to a boil. I'm going to go ahead and cover over the top once it boils. I'm going to lower the temp about to a low to medium temp. Right now I have it on high so we can bring it to a boil. And then once I get finished with the cranberries pop, I will show you all what it looks like at that point in time, and I will show you what the final step looks like. All right, my friends, we are back after that 12-minute mark. So I'm going to go ahead, take off the lid, and show you all what we have here. Let me go ahead and give it a little mix. So even with the simmer, it did pop a lot of them. You might need to go in with your spatula and just go ahead and crush them down. They are super, super soft. So even for the ones that did not pop with just the simmer, they will most definitely pop for you if you just go ahead and give them a little assist by just crushing them down with your cooking utensil. But I'm going to go ahead and show you all. So as you can see, it did become a really nice texture, kind of like a jelly-like texture. It will definitely thicken up a lot more once you put it in the fridge. So today is Tuesday, November 26th. So in 2 days, come Thanksgiving, Thursday, November 28th, we're gonna have this ready to go in the refrigerator, and it for sure is going to have a really nice texture in the fridge if you guys basically make it at least 24 hours in advance. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off our heat as we no longer need it. The final step, we're just going to add a little bit of vanilla extract. You can add as much as you want. You can even not add it at all. You can do a lot of finishing touches. So if you have any other type of extract that you rather prefer, go ahead and add it. Make it your own. I certainly customize a lot of recipes throughout the years. Use what you like. You can also add some lemon peel. You can add some zest of an orange, whatever you would like. Yes, you know, orange is not necessarily keto, but you're gonna use just the peel of it, the zest. So for me, I don't see it as a big deal. You know, pick your battles where you will. Generally use about 1 teaspoon. I just go ahead and just splash it in. I just eyeball it is all that I do. And I'm going to go ahead and give it one final mix. And as you can see, this was super simple for just making a homemade cranberry sauce. I'm going to go ahead and just put it in a glass container here. That way we can go ahead, allow it to cool. Definitely allow it to cool somewhat on your countertop, and then you can go ahead and just put it in the fridge and then have it ready to go for Thanksgiving. So as you can see, this was a really simple, another simple recipe that you can have to make a keto or a proper human diet, if you will, Thanksgiving side. And it did not take any time at all. Literally the only cook time was really the 10 minutes, because really truly you're dumping everything in your pot or pan and adding whatever type of additional flavoring when it came to either orange zest, lemon zest, or any extract that you're choosing as a final touch. But as you can see, we have our final product here, and it's going to, as I said, it's going to thicken in the refrigerator. So I will, come Thanksgiving Day, I will post in my community post a final picture of my food plated up. That way you all can see what everything looks like. I'm going to try to upload this video, of course, before Thanksgiving. That way, you know, in case it's helpful to anybody last minute, you can definitely make any of these and have a real simple, very stress-free Thanksgiving. So I'm going to go ahead and allow this to cool, and we're going to get on to our very next keto meal idea for Thanksgiving. All right, my friends, we're going to go ahead and make our next Thanksgiving side. This is also really quick, really easy. Your first keto or proper human diet Thanksgiving, it might be really overwhelming, might be really stressful because you are trying to do all the things. You are looking up all the recipes, but I can assure you, holiday after holiday, it definitely gets a lot easier. As you are seeing, 6 years in, we keep things very simple now. Best believe I did all the things for our first keto Thanksgiving, and year by year, you learn to tone it down. So I'm going to go ahead and show you all this. It is basically a mock or a copycat, if you will, of the Red Lobster biscuits. So it's kind of like the Cheddar Bay biscuits that you would get at Red Lobster. I went ahead and grated. I have my old school grater here, but of course you can use whatever contraption you have in your kitchen to grate cheese. I definitely suggest to grate by the block, not only because it does not have any wonky anti-caking ingredients when you use the block, but also you get more bang for your buck by purchasing that big block and shredding your cheese. So I simply have in here, it is 1.5 cups of cheddar cheese. So I already have that in my bowl here. I'm going to double the batch. So I definitely have a lot extra than what yours is going to look like if you just do the one batch of biscuits. Then for one batch, it is going to be 2 eggs. And this is very much a kind of like dump and it's ready to go type of recipe, aside from having to bake it. So it's very much like that cranberry sauce that we had made. So you will find that these recipes are very easy to do and can definitely attest to why I have these as my go-to for Thanksgiving. So I have my eggs in. Next, we're going to go with one. All right, my friends, I had to pause because I had an important phone call coming in. I forgot to set my phone to do not disturb. I'm actually happy I forgot because I had an important call that came in. So we're going to go in with 1 teaspoon of baking powder. I'm going in with 2 because, as I said, I'm doing double the batch because I want to make sure not only we have some biscuits for the day of, but I definitely like to be able to have some leftovers. And then I'm going to go in with some almond flour. So in the community, you're going to hear all kind of things when it comes to almond flour, that it's inflammatory. Stick with an option like coconut flour. Still yet for like holidays, I can definitely tell you for these biscuits, for Christmas cookies, I still use almond flour, but as you can see, I'm saying that I'm using it during the holiday time. And I do seldomly end up using it for recipes for the kids throughout the year. So I always have some on hand. Definitely, it's a you do you kind of situation. So I'm going to go in with, for one batch, it's going to be 1.5 cups. So again, I'm going to go in with 3 cups worth as I am doubling my batch here. And it's good to have double the batch because, like I said, you have some for the day of as well as for leftovers. Okay, and that is it. So that was pretty much all of our ingredients going in. And I'm just going to give it a good mix. I do have my oven already ready to go at 350 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and get this really well mixed with those eggs. And this is something our kids, they really enjoy. To have these biscuits be an addition to our Thanksgiving meal. They definitely devour them. And it kind of gets the point if we would even have any leftovers after the day of, because they're only really that good. I mean, really, truly, it is like a replica of the ones that you would get at that chain restaurant. So I have it pretty much combined here. I'm just working it through to make sure I can get as much of the egg mixed up as I can. I do already have here a baking sheet that's lined with some parchment paper. You can definitely go in with just using, if you would like, a cookie sheet that is greased. You can definitely do that. The bottoms might get a little just more tan, a little more brown because you're going with that option versus using the parchment paper. The bottoms are going to brown slightly, but of course with the protection of the parchment paper, not as much. So what I like to do, and it's not for any aesthetic reason, you know, for you it could definitely be aesthetic if you're going to have company over and you want all these biscuits to look nice and even and pretty. I do this as far as having them all, for the most part, be equal shape, equal size when it comes to having them all evenly baked at the same exact time. So I go in just with an ice cream scooper, and you'll see why this is even more simple, because when I go in with this ice cream scooper, I do not do any shaping at all. So let me show you all here with just this one. So as you can see, I keep it that rough looking shape. So I mean, yes, it is a good ball shape, but as far as doing any additional forming of it, I don't. I just keep it as is, straight out the scooper. And as you can see, I just simply kind of press it against the side of the bowl. That way I can kind of just even it off. But with all that cheese in this recipe, it is going to melt and beautifully shape on its own. And it's going to give that same look like the Cheddar Bay biscuits from the chain restaurant. And theirs looks exactly the same way. Theirs also has that rough type of look to it. It is not, you know, anything aesthetic wise that they, you know, shape them into balls or anything like that. It still has that really rough type of flaky look to it. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of move these around. That way I could have allowed myself a little bit more room on here. And these are going to bake at the 350. It's going to bake, and I'm going to say this range only because everyone's oven is going to definitely vary when it comes to how much time it takes. So this takes anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes is what it's going to take. So I have one extra here. Let me go ahead and plop it there. But that is it. So you can see how quick that was to get all these biscuits mixed up. Literally right now I'm at like a time of under 7 minutes. So as you can see, that was super easy to do, super easy to put together. I'm going to go ahead and pop them in the oven, and then I'll show you guys what they look like when they come out the oven, and then I'll show you guys the final touches to make this exactly like the Red Lobster Cheddar Bay biscuits. My friends, we have the biscuits out of the oven. So let me go ahead, because obviously the baking sheet pan is still really hot. So as you can see, they look really amazing as is. You can definitely keep them as is if you would like. What I do is I go in and do them exactly like the buttery type of biscuits that you all would get at the chain restaurant. So in a measuring cup, I have in here 3 tablespoons of butter is what it would be for just the one batch of the recipe. You go in with 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of onion powder, and usually the recipes don't call for this. I like to look as similar as the biscuit from the chain restaurant. So I go in with a little bit of parsley to kind of give it that little bit of green that it definitely needs with all these other kind of like yellowish colors in here. And I just go ahead and I melt the butter, put everything in this measuring cup here. I like to use a measuring cup because, as you can see, after mixing it up, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and drizzle this right over each of the biscuits. It makes it so easy. You know, of course, you can go in if you would like with a brush and, you know, brush this over the top of each of them. You do you. For me, I like to go the easy route of just kind of dumping the mixture over them. But as you can see, this was really simple, really easy. All you basically did was mixed up that batter, scoop them onto the baking sheet, and bake them away. You know, basically the oven did most of the work for us. I'm going to go ahead and show you all what these look like with the butter drizzled over the top of them. They look so amazing, so good. So as you can see, they came out really beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and get all of this cleaned up, and we are going to get into our main course. That way I can show you all kind of a full wrap up of between appetizer, sides, as well as what our main course is going to be, and show you guys just how easy, how stress-free a keto, proper human diet Thanksgiving could be. All right, friends, we're going to go in with our last and final here. We're going to go in with our main course. We have not done a Thanksgiving turkey in quite a several years amount of time. I want to say probably the last time we did a turkey was when we first had purchased our house in 2010, and we were kind of just really over turkey at that point in time. We do a boneless leg of lamb. I'm going to show you all this one. I purchased it from Costco. Costco, they have a really good quality when it comes to their meats, especially when it comes to the lamb. It is really priced well. So as you can kind of see, this was $4.99 a pound. This is US dollars. This is 6.77 pounds for a total price of $33.78. So this is kind of right up there almost with the pricing of your turkeys. Yes, obviously you can get turkeys on sale, but you know, to really kind of feed a family and have leftovers, this definitely gets us the same bang for our buck, just like a turkey would, because as I said, we do end up having leftovers. So at $33.78, this definitely is a complete score at that price of $4.99 each. I'm going to go ahead and just cut this open. I do have lined on my cookie sheet here, I do have a paper towel. So I'm going to go ahead and use a glove here to take this out. It does come netted already, so it is your choice if you want to keep it in the net, if you want to take it out. That is definitely up to you, what your preference is. For me, I keep the net on. I like to have that roast shape to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and dry this down. For me, I like to dry it down because when I put all of my seasonings on it, it's going to allow the heat when it roasts to allow for more of a nice cooking texture around the meat. Because if you leave all of that myoglobin is what is in that packaging, because obviously when the animal is slaughtered, all of the blood is already dripped out of the animal. So all that was in that packaging is the protein called myoglobin, and it adds moisture. So when you go to bake this, roast it, grill it, that moisture definitely allows for it to steam a little bit. So it could take a little bit longer for it to truly get that nice crisp over the top of this. Okay, so that should be good. I'm gonna go ahead and slip off my glove here for a second. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and now take this lamb and I'm gonna transfer it to our roasting pan. This is definitely your preference as far as when it comes to your lamb. If you want to add any veggies at all, that is entirely up to you. Your journey is your journey. So don't allow anyone to dictate what you want to incorporate for any of your meals, especially when it comes to the holidays. You do you. Perfectly fine to have a little bit of indulgence on the holiday. I don't, because I don't want to get sick, because we have been on this way of eating for such a long time, coming up on 6 years. So I like to keep on track, but that's me. That's my preference, my journey. So I'm going to go ahead and add some onions to the bottom. So as you can see here, I have a really deep roasting pan here. I'm going to go ahead and grab my onions. So what I did was, for these onions, I just sliced them in half to keep it still on the chunky side as they roast, because this is going to roast for a fairly good amount of time. And with it roasting, I don't want any of my onions to burn. So I like to keep them on the chunky side. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and oil the bottom. That way I can oil these onions, because it's going to take time for the actual lamb itself, for that fat to produce you any sort of grease when it comes to the bottom of your pan. So I definitely want to take advantage of adding some kind of grease for those onions, because they're going to start to get heat and they're going to basically be dried out. So we want to be able to give them some moisture. I'm going to go ahead and season the onions just with some salt. It's going to allow them, as they're getting heat, it's going to allow them to break down nicely. All right, and I'm going to go ahead, add the top of my roaster here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put my glove back on here. Grab my piece of lamb. All right, so I do have now the lamb over my roasting pan here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to use the same measuring cup, because as you all probably learned by now, the less dishes I could do, the better. I'm going to go ahead and add some softened butter to my measuring cup here. So softened butter, just leave it out so it can get at room temp. This took, I want to say, about like 2 to 3 hours to soften up for me. So I'm just going to kind of crush it down just a little bit. And you can use whatever seasonings you like. So whatever seasonings you like for your meat, go in with that. I'm going to just show you what I use. I don't measure at all. I kind of just mix it around and kind of figure if it's going to be enough to truly well season whatever meats. So I'm going to go in with some cumin. Some garlic powder. I just had a little bit left in that one container. So I do go heavy on the garlic powder because we absolutely love garlic powder. And then I'm going to go in with some dry parsley flakes. Okay, so you're probably thinking to yourself, I did not mention any salt. So what I like to do is I like to directly salt the meat and then spread on this butter compote that we're making here. So all I'm doing, as you could see, I'm just getting this well incorporated. So all of those seasonings is nicely incorporated into the butter. And you don't want the butter melted because obviously if the butter is melted, it is in liquid form. It's not creamy like this. So initially when you put it on your meat, some's gonna stick to it because of the way we dried it. But majority is just gonna go ahead and drip in your pan. Then what you're gonna have to do is throughout the cook time, you're gonna have to constantly move your rack to access those drippings underneath and to be able to constantly drizzle it and kind of baste over your meat throughout the cook time. And I like to make this compote because that way it's staying on the meat and you're truly going to have it on the meat throughout its cook time, the majority of it at least. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna salt our lamb here. I'm not going to very heavily salt because that butter, let me go ahead and show you all. I purchased it from Aldi. It is their version of their Irish butter. So this is like your comparable to your Kerrygold, and this is salted. So I don't want to have this be too salted because it's definitely going with that notion of you can always add salt, but you cannot take the salt away once you overly salt something. So I'm just trying to make sure I get as much possible with just a light sprinkling of some salt here. Okay, so that looks really good. All right, now I'm gonna go over it with my butter. So I was using some gloves there because I wanted to be able to handle my seasoning bottles and not have to discard them because I definitely have some remaining in some of the bottles. So I'm gonna go ahead and just literally spread this on. So as you can see, this is spreading really nicely. Let me see if I can get this up a little bit closer. And I definitely appreciate you guys cooperating with me because I wanted to get this recorded for you all. I did have someone that emailed me because they were frustrated and they were stressed out with the holidays coming up. Do not allow food to stress you out. It is definitely about your mentality when you change your way of eating because you are going to have to get accustomed that do not allow food to dictate whether or not your holiday was enjoyable. Do not allow it to dictate if a birthday party was enjoyable. Any sort of celebration, do not allow the food to dictate. Because, of course, the food, yes, is it part of the experience? Yes. Is it the whole experience? No. We should more so be focusing on what the holiday is for. It's to spend it with our loved ones, to appreciate the loved ones that are still here with us today. It is for us to have that perspective of gratefulness, to have gratitude. And don't allow the food to skew your mind to feel otherwise. So it does take some time to get into that mental state. But as I said, it will be rough, maybe for at least the first to the second holiday that you do on this way of eating, because everyone's different. You know, everyone can work on their mentality, but everyone is going to have a different pace as far as mentally when they're truly able to feel like they've made progress on not allowing the food to get to them. Because you could still have an enjoyable holiday, because each one of these recipes that I'm showing you all, I do not feel deprived at all. It is still enjoyable for me. And by taking care of all of this a day to 2 days in advance, it allows me to be able to focus on my family even more. Okay, so I'm just making sure I have all of the meat fully covered. It looks like we are good. Okay. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and keep it with that fat side down. I wanna be able to show you all what this looks like, because I know my lighting in here is not the very best. So as you can see, I have that compo butter all over. What I'm gonna do to prevent this butter from instantly burning is I'm gonna drizzle a little bit of some avocado oil. So you'll see, if you are someone that watches some cooking shows, and when they are sauteing anything in the pan and using some butter, you'll see they'll go in with a little bit of avocado oil, because they want to make sure that the butter, that it would brown, but that it does not burn. All right, let's go ahead and put that fat side down again. So this is going to go in the oven. I have the oven set for convection roast. So you can definitely go in with baking this without any problem at all if your oven does not have the setting of convection roast. With it having the setting of convection roast, it is basically going to allow this to have the temperature be regulated, because obviously when you're roasting something, it's the understanding that it's going to go in the oven for a long period of a cook time. So I have the oven currently right now set for 400 degrees Fahrenheit for convection roast. Also with the convection, it has the fan in the inside of the oven, so that is going to allow for a nice even cook. But I am going to go in with my thermometer. I'm going to stick a thermometer probe in this, because for the lamb, I'm going to want to make sure it has an internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Lamb is very kind of finicky when it comes to the texture. If you overcook it, definitely it becomes kind of a little bit dry, is what I would say. So it doesn't really become too tough, but it does dry out and it does take away a lot of that really good flavor that lamb could give you if you cook it at that optimal internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit. So what I like to kind of do is do about 20 minutes per pound. So at the amount that this was, so we're gonna go in with about 2 hours. And once this comes out the oven, I'm going to allow it to rest. So it's gonna rest for anywhere from about 10 to 20 minutes is what I like to do before I go ahead and cut into it. So I'm gonna go ahead and my oven is ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick it in the oven for about 2 hours and we'll see what we're looking at that 2 hour mark. And of course we have our probe in the meat already. So once it gets that internal temperature of 145 degrees Fahrenheit, we'll also know as well if it ends up being prior to that 2 hour cook time. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick this in the oven, and when I come back, I will have it nicely rested and I will show you all what it looks like at that point in time. All right, my friends, I have the boneless leg of lamb out from the oven. So just to kind of show you all, I did allow it to rest. So the pan is not super hot since it had that rest period of time. So as you can see, I did take the netting off. So this is actually how it is if you were to basically open the netting and bake it or roast it that way. So as you can see, they basically just took the leg of lamb and simply just folded it, if you will, to make it a roast shape. That's why I like to kind of keep it a roast shape, because as you can see, for the most part, even though taking the netting off, it did open up a little bit taking that netting off, but still yet it keeps it somewhat in a roast shape. What I'm going to do, because now rested, I'm going to go ahead and just slice through just to kind of show you all what it looks like. So the more thinner ends had a little more cook on them, but as you get more towards the thicker side, you have this, it still has some steam coming out of it because of course it is still hot. But let me go ahead and show you all a piece here. So as you can see, it does have that nice pinkish shape, and this is that crust I was telling you all about. So I'm going to just line this here in a casserole dish. That way it's ready to go for Thanksgiving. All I have to do is simply just go ahead and reheat this. I'm going to go ahead and just slice it up here. And this is simply how easy I make my holidays now. Keeping keto, keeping proper human diet. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that a little later on. What was at the bottom of the pan ended up being these drippings. So this is all that beautiful rendered fat throughout that cook time. I'm going to keep it in this measuring glass. This is another really good tip. I'm going to cover it over with some aluminum foil. Come tomorrow, Thanksgiving, all I'm going to do is just heat this up. I'm going to add a little bit of butter to it just to make it a little extra rich. And it's going to be ready to go in this measuring cup, ready to drizzle over our lamb that is basically on our plates plated up. I did take all of the roast onion. So they did get really nice and caramelized here. But I put them in a separate casserole dish because our kids, 7, 16, they are not fond of onions. So I went ahead and separated that. That way hubby and I that do love onions, we can have that portioned out for ourselves. So I'm going to go ahead and slice this up, as I said, and get this put away in the fridge. That way it's ready for tomorrow. But I really hope this helped. It was a little bit of chaos. Thank you for bearing with me. Things are a little bit hectic. Baby boy actually just turned 12 weeks as of tomorrow. He'll be 12 weeks. So I appreciate you all hanging through with me from the beginning to now the end. And if this is your first keto, proper human diet Thanksgiving, be kind to yourself. Whatever your Thanksgiving looks like, whatever your Christmas looks like, there is always tomorrow. Don't worry about it. You have the information. Just keep going forward. All right, my friends. Well, thank you all as usual for watching. As always, I appreciate you all. Take care until the next one.